Hi, everyone. Welcome back. And now it's the time for our fireside chat with Erin Hoffman. Super excited about that. Just for those of you who just came in, it's the first time you see me. You're like, who's that guy? Well, I'm Carl-Edwin Michel. I am the host for today on the main stage. So I'm pretty excited to be there with you guys. I'm the founder and CEO of Northern Arena. So we do esports stuff and gaming stuff. We do esports event tournaments, league, but we also do TV shows, which is pretty cool. And I'm also the creator and executive producer of the Canadian Game Awards. So we're gonna start by. I just want to introduce Erin. I think you're gonna have we're gonna have a great chat today, and Erin is a game designer, author, and speaker. She is currently on baby bounding leave, but mostly recently led creative for Google Stadia R&D's team. She is also creative lead at Sense of Wonder, an independent maker of digital games with a social good mission. Please welcome Erin Hoffman. Erin, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Great to have you with us. And before, I have a bunch of questions for you. Obviously, we want to make this discussion interactive. By the way, audience, if you do have questions for Erin, please use the Q&A section, and I'll be able to ask her your questions. But Erin, please talk to us a little bit about yourself and how you got into business, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Sure. Gosh, it's been a long time now. I started making role-playing games on America Online in the mid '90s, and
Oh wow.
in online chat rooms. Yeah, and that kind of became a springboard to working for a game called Dragon Realms, which is based out of St. Louis in the United States. And I was a remote worker then, actually, so it feels a little bit like coming full circle with everything that's happening. But I was they called us game masters, or I was an assistant game designer and world builder on that game, and then had a scholarship to go to the Game Developers Conference through the IGDA, actually, and I was kind of off to the races from there. I've worked on mostly new technologies with an internet focus over the past 17 years.
Cool. That's great. That's great. And obviously, I don't know if you had the chance to see the panels earlier today. We had a keynote with Emily Greer and a great panel with four amazing CEOs and co-CEOs in the gaming industry. There was a lot of discussion. We had obviously a lot of discussion about the COVID situation where we are right now. But before I go there, which I would love to hear. A little bit about the advantage of the new generation because we're in the
Mm.
middle of the launch of new generation of gaming. Obviously, you've worked you work again at Stadia. Um, what is the future of digital distribution for you? Where are we going there?
Wow, you're starting off with a nice, easy one, I see. Yeah, and I'm really impressed by everyone so far. I'm a big fan of Emily's, but I got to meet a lot of new people, and there was so much great wisdom that's been shared already. The future of digital distribution. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased. I am on leave, so I'm not officially representing Google or Stadia. But even just as a consumer, I feel like that I think that the streaming generation is the new just in time. And so when games went to just in time distribution, even with CDs and as fast as they could be pressed compared to consoles, you saw this big shift in the type of content that was able to be delivered. And I think that with streaming, we're seeing something kind of similar, where it's not just that it will change how and who can play games, but that the kind of games that are made will be new, and that there will be a new generation of game developers. And usually, what happens is the incumbents are used to doing things the way they did before, so there's this great new opportunity for new voices to take advantage of the new technology and make things that you could literally be changing while players are playing and they aren't aware of it, which is almost like there's an everything old is new again sort of thing to me about that, because it's a bit like being a dungeon master or a game master where you're changing things behind the scenes without the players being aware of it, and it becomes this whole new playful layer of experience.
Was there some challenges, bringing this to life, like bringing Stadia? And I'm sure you were there at the beginning of the whole, coming of this technology and this service. Was there a lot of challenges there?
Oh man, it's super hard. I mean, what I mostly say is I got to witness the work of some really amazing technologists lift this thing up, and it was like watching a rocket ship take off. It was really incredible. Certainly really hard, and I'm not even qualified to speak on why exactly it was so hard because I'm more of a designer and less of a technologist. But um, yeah, it was an amazing thing to watch.
Does that affect though? Is that a for you as a like you said, you're not a technologist, but is it something that you see as an advantage that technology for your line of work?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the history of my career has sort of been trying to catch the lightning in a bottle of what is new about the technology. How can we take advantage of it? How can we be ahead of the curve? And a lot of times in the stuff that I've worked on, I've been too early on it because that's sort of where I like to be. I've been trying to bring in actually my angle of focus. So that can I work on the thing that's right now, instead of being further in the future because I was working on games for the Facebook platform when people said, "Oh, that's never going to go anywhere," and because you don't own the user, they would say. So I think it's certainly very challenging, but it's worthwhile. I think, and it's part of the magic of what games are and do. There are so many leaps forward in video games that come from being able to capture that technology, and I think people that are fans of video games like to have that. My company is called Sense of Wonder. It's a little bit about that moment of like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that before, and it gives you a chill.
Yeah, and thanks for that. That's a good segue. I wanted to talk about Sense of Wonder and what you guys are doing there. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I can. There's not much to say right now because
Oh,
we're a little bit on pause. There's
okay.
an indie game we're working on kind of in the background, but very very slowly. And because a lot of our focus is on our day jobs at the moment, but I think a lot of indie people know how that is. Like you got this thing you're chugging away on. We did make some mobile games that were released, and we have things that we're pitching all the time. I think when you're trying to have a company that has a social good mission as well, I think that especially for games, is one of those things that's a bit ahead of the curve. But I'm hoping that we're there when the day comes when we can really get those kinds of things funded.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it brings me to obviously today we've been talking a lot about what's going on in the world right now, and especially with the pandemic, and how do you how do you create those games in those in that new reality. I don't know if for you being on mat leave it had an impact or not, but for what you've seen, how do make a remote team uh, work and
Mm,
like how do you make them collaborate? And maybe I would love to hear a little bit about that on your side.
sure. Yeah, I was there for the beginning of it. So I went on leave in June, and I think the hard thing it feels like a different world. It's a different world every 3 months since June, right? Or even since March and January and December when all of this really was just getting started. I think that everything is harder and the things that we are not good at. Emily talked a lot about building trust, and it's huge. And trust over video conference is a lot harder than trust in person. So the weak spots that we have become more critical weak spots, and you have to shore them up, and you have to be willing to slow down. And that's especially in video games is so difficult. You feel like you can't slow down. Everything's urgent. Everything's existential. And but if you don't take that time, if you don't slow down, you're just going to crash. And so I think really making space for people, and it's even more important to look at everyone you work with as a human being first, and understand that we're in a time when we're going to have to be really agile and really patient and respond to things and take in all the data and information as much as we can because we're just not prepared for this.
Mhm. And do you think that's something that's going to be like that for a while, like an hybrid world, or you're confident that in the new year or really soon we'll go back to you know April 2020 before everything went down?
Right. Gosh. I'm a perpetual optimist. I think that's actually it can be a flaw, but I think In this case, I think that it's going to be a long time before everything is fully back to normal. But I think there are things that we're learning and processes that we are innovating in the moment that are going to last us and are going to change things. I'd be pretty happy not to go into a big box store ever again. Like I like being able to drive up and order
There you
things on
go.
my phone ahead of time. Like, so there's all these technologies and hybrid experiences. Um, I think that the pandemic has really shown a light on how the workers that are the most essential, we don't compensate as if they are essential. And I
Yeah.
hope that that causes reflection and that we really start to pause and look at our value system and take care of people better than we have before, because we've had the society that's uh, wants to go so fast and have everything right now, and that impetus to stop and think and really look at people and really listen, and understand that listening is really hard and we can't assume that we know the answers. I think all of those things are actually improvements on our value system that I hope we take forward.
Mhm. And how do we do this? Like, how do we keep the motivation? And even before I go there, because on the technical side, and this is I guess a little bit more practical. You're in games. There must be already some challenges working in an office space. Imagine being in that situation, and I know that our colleagues in the industry have been facing a lot of challenges. How do you see that in the future?
Oh gosh, I think there's a lot packed into that question, right? And I think in some of what you're saying, I was thinking about the way that I think in some ways it's hardest for new people. It's hard to integrate. If you have a team that's sort of rolling along, that's fine. But every time you're going to add someone to a team in a remote environment, it's that much harder. And you have to invent new ways of making them feel included and seen and known. And we have this video chat. I think we're just straining to its utmost. I think there's so much that we still don't know about the way that people work on video, because it has this illusion that you're seeing a person as they really are, but you're not. And there's all these, whether they're micro expressions or what, we don't even know exactly what it is that is lost. But trying to make up for that is super difficult. And so I come back again to being patient insofar as we can, and that's very hard.
No, for sure, for sure. And keeping that motivation is going to be key, I guess, to be able to keep everybody, yeah, motivated and creating those
Yeah,
amazing games, right? So,
I
um,
want to say
yeah.
for motivation. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, go
interrupt you.
ahead. No, no, for sure.
Um, I think I think there is an opportunity as well in what we're going through to, if we're going to look at everyone as a human being first and address them as a person, there's something very deep in terms of the potential to motivate them if we're doing that. There's a lot of people that are stepping back and looking at their lives and saying, do I want to live here? Do I want to be in this place? All this stuff that I've been meaning to do. I'm gonna just do it. Like the pressure of something like a crisis can pull that out of people. And so I think there's a natural reflection that is happening, in part because we're all shut inside because we can't see each other. You're with your own mind in a way that we haven't been before. And so I think if we can tap into that's where the best motivation does come from, is from asking really hard questions. And if we can kind of embrace that and ask people what they want out of their own lives and try to align that with our company values, like have a really honest conversation about the way that intersects with what a company is. And I think for myself as a leader, I think there's always this tension between, I have to drive the company in this direction. These are my goals. This is the goals of the company. And then what if people that are working with you get out of alignment with that mission? I think there's an impulse to ignore that or kind of put it under the rug, and that's what you've got to not do if you want to be able to keep people motivated.
No, exactly. Thank you for that. Earlier in the panel, we were talking about, as a leader, you're trying to keep your staff, your crew, your family happy, but it's always a challenge. And there was an example of, a party where they were bringing three cakes, and even with the three
Yeah.
different cakes, even with that, like the person said, "Well, where's the velvet one?" How do you keep your team or the people around you happy?
Oh my gosh. It really does depend on the people, doesn't it? And I think there's
True.
no silver bullet, but it comes back to, the things Emily was saying, I think, about trust. And there were some great comments made on the panel about the importance of giving people the opportunity to feel heard. And I think that I don't know exactly how you solve the cake problem, other than just to be honest with people and say and listen and really hear them, and try to make the best decision you can, and then be transparent about how you made the decision. And I think if you do that, people will understand. What they want to know is that they are being heard. And if they don't have that hierarchy of needs where they feel as though they are in a good place where their careers are moving forward and they're with people who value them. You have to have those table stakes, and the table stakes are really hard, especially if you have a diverse population in being able to attend to the needs of everyone and even ensure that they are communicating with each other in an effective way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's great that you just kind of like helped me with a segue here with some much discussed I guess subject over the year, especially 2020. It's been a long time, but I think this year has been really pushing it. The subject of diversity and
Mhm.
inclusion in the workplace, and it's becoming more and more a topic. So on your side, what do you think of that, and what can we do better?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I really like what the whole panel seemed to agree was that it's not new. We've always had this problem, and I think it's interesting when I even see journalism pieces that are written about like, well, now we're just now aware of this. It's like, no, actually, I think we are pretty aware of it before. It was just maybe it's those of us that were more bothered by it didn't feel as though our voices were being heard as much too. And I think that's an interesting thing about the future is that I think we are moving away from a perception that there is a mainstream culture and more of a perception that we have many cultures that are happening all at the same time. And we have to kind of integrate and hear and honor all of those cultures. And I really like what Sabrina said with that if you as a leader, you're not getting complete information unless you have many different perspectives in the room. And I think that that's really true. I think to some extent, I can't even remember how many um, white men I've talked to in the game industry who, after they work in a diverse environment for the first time, they say, "I never knew what I was missing, and this is so much better, and I'm never going back." You know, I think possibly I've worked in the learning game space, the educational game space, which actually has a tendency to be more diverse for whatever reason. I think the learning world is more diverse, and maybe because it's such a broad thing of like education is so fundamental for everyone. But exposure to those communities and how they even take for granted their diversity compared to in different parts of the game industry, you have different levels of diversity and even what it means. But I think that once you experience it, there really isn't any going back. And if we can look at it as though we need more data, we need more voices in order to make better decisions, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know we don't have too much time, but I want to ask a question that was asked in the previous panel. We couldn't answer it, but I wanted to ask it to you. How do you see the path on getting into the gaming world as a student? How did it change, or how difficult it is now compared to before, or maybe it was more difficult before and it's easier now? What do you think of that?
I think when I talk to students lately, I'm overwhelmed to like, what can I even tell you because it's so different, And in part, there's so many more of you that are trying to do this than there ever were before. That seems really hard, and it seems like I've gone from having been an IGDA scholar to uh, being one of the reviewers for some of the scholarship applications. Sometimes I haven't done it very recently, but it just seems to me that the applications for things like that are just getting better and better, which kind of is a little bit, it's very intimidating. It's, whoa, how do you make it? Would I have made it today? I don't know, But I think at the same time, there are so many more avenues for how to get started. And that's both inspiring and hopeful, I think, because I think we're starting to see that the kind of thinking that draws a person to work on video games or to love video games applies to a lot more than just making a specific video game. And I think one of the challenges for students now, which is an opportunity, because I have the younger the student, the more. So I even have so many people contact say, "Oh, my nephew is 12 and really wants to be a game developer." Holy cow, they're thinking about this so early. But um, is to think specifically about the kind of games that you want to make, and I tend to challenge students in particular to think deeply about how a game that you like is put together and what you like about it and what you don't, and have kind of a modding mentality of saying, I want to change this little part, and especially try to play with things that let you mod them, because that's a little bit harder than it has been in past years too. But to have kind of a tinkering mentality and try to change things instead of just consuming them, I think is a big trend for the future in students.
Yeah, and there's more and more tools also to
Yeah,
help
for
people
sure.
create these games. Is that a good thing, you think, or we need more tools?
It we always need more. It can never have enough, right?
There you go.
But then I
There you
guess
go.
it gets hard to navigate, right? Do I do this one or this
Yeah,
one or this one? Um, I think it's good and bad. It's good in that obviously you can get started so much faster. It's
yeah,
bad in that usually a game tool is built to make a very certain type of game. And so for me, if I'm kind of like an innovator at heart, I want things that are different that I've never seen before. And it's hard to get that when you're using an engine that lots of people are all using, and it's for making, first person shooters. So but I think in terms of scaffolding, in terms of giving people a ramp to do something that's easier before they take on something that's really hard, they're totally critical, to have things that are that kind of tool.
yeah. What would you say to someone that wants to get in the gaming industry, but is not, doesn't want to be a programmer, for example, or don't
Oh,
have
sure.
necessarily that skills? Like just to let them know that hey, there's so much more than this. What would you say to that person?
What I tell people is no matter what kind of first tell me what your favorite type of game is, and maybe tell me what your 5 different types of game are, and then try to think about what's in common with those games for any possible thing. There's a community of people that like to make those games, and they're somewhere on the internet. And I'm a
Yeah.
really big believer in community, and like, find that community, make friends, and then and raise your hand, help somebody, and say, "Hey, I could do this, or I could try to learn this," and realize that everything. So I'm a writer also, and I think one of the best things you can do as a writer is read the early works of people that you think are amazing, because you won't think they're so amazing anymore if you read the first story they ever published. And when you kind of see where everybody gets started, it's never any good, right? So you have to be able to keep going and be aware, like, okay, this is not matching my vision, but the fact that I'm bad at this and it doesn't match my vision, that's actually good. It means that uh, where your growth can be. And then if you can just keep pushing and just keep trying, you can get there from anywhere.
This is great. This is great insight. I really appreciate your time today, just talking to us about all those subject, and hopefully we can hear more about all of this. But just before you go, just want to hear about you yourself. What's coming in the new year and beyond? Is there special projects? I know you have a nice little one that is with you, but what's next?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. The truth is, I don't know. Right? It's I think what it
This is
is for a lot
perfect.
of us. Yeah, it's surviving, right? We're gonna endure, and we're gonna dream. And I think taking care of people is top of mind right now. Both, my coworkers, my family, everyone, and how we can do that and keep everybody safe is certainly the focus. And I've been thinking about what are the things that I really want to work on, and I've got a few ideas, but nothing that's ready for prime time.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I just wanted to go to questions in the Q&A. Obviously, audience, please ask your questions in the Q&A. But I have a question for from Sarah here. She says, "Do you think that the video game world is receptive to games that have an important social objective? For example, games that talks about topics such as discrimination."
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, I'm biased. I love that question. So the game world is so big that someone is into it, right? And I think that's what I would say first. And I would say second that I think its time is coming. I have this kind like the kind of sense of like um, at some point we're gonna make every crate box shooter that's ever possible to be made, right? And so like in the beaten path of games that we've seen before, there's a huge space of games that have this kind of deeper meaning, and I think that that's part of the future. So for sure, I think games are amazing at putting you in the shoes of someone else, and I think that that has tremendous potential to address things like discrimination. There's a really amazing project that some Carnegie Mellon students did that was a VR game about being both in the perspective in VR of a person who is a bystander witnessing violence towards a minority community, and what do you do? You know, and I think those kinds of empathic experiences that pull in more from the real world and address things that are important, I do think that their time is coming. What I tend to tell, especially students that want to do, they call them serious games or
Yeah.
games for change, things like that, is there's a reason why video games are so powerful and so immersive, and that you have to kind of learn those tools first. And if you can do that and then apply those sort of like the tools for pure entertainment to an important concept, it's really the marriage of those two that's going to be powerful and has been powerful in games like that so far.
Great, great. Well, thanks a lot, Erin, for this time with us. It was a great chat. We have to cut soon, but I hope it was insightful for everyone watching today. I really appreciate my chat with you, and I hope you all the best in the future. So thanks a lot for coming today.
Thank you very much. This has been really fun.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. It was the last panel today, and super happy that we had the chance to discuss with you. We had a great keynote panel, and our fireside chat with Erin was wonderful. So I wanna, before I leave, I wanted to thank our partners, Red Barrel, Stadia, Square Enix, Ubisoft, and the City of Montreal. Tomorrow I'll be on the stage 2 to talk about cross-platform games. We have a great panel there, the production of and challenges of cross-platform games. So looking forward to it. Thanks again for being with me today, and have a great evening.